That's why it says about us, what we forgotten the law of our God. You understand? For lack of knowledge, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Do you know anything about maritime admiralty law? Some very important things in this new video. Some of you may have checked it out. And there's a lot of other videos which kind of speaks to different various degrees on this whole idea of an artificial person and a natural person, and maritime admiralty law, and capitis dominatio maxima, which is like how names are kind of written on a lot of so-called legal documentation, like birth certificate and marriage certificate, which basically warehouse us. We're warehouse. We have become a commodity or commerce. You understand? Become commerce. But just to touch on it briefly right here, business. You understand? Business, banking, and merchant disputes originally all came under maritime admiralty law. Now, what's very interesting about maritime admiralty law, when you start to trace it back to its roots, like with the Philistines and the Phoenicians, and you see the European connection, and we take it all back to the Bible and to the ancient days, you can really see how the word of God was accurate when it talked about this beast. The end time beast would come up out of the sea. It would come up out of the great waters. You understand? Like Leviathan. Leviathan is often pictured as well as coming up out of great waters. Now, the revelation of this, as it operates in the present world system, is this idea and practice that has become corporate law, you understand, and has been assumed by most who are non-examiners and non-investigators as the law, actually comes from a thing called maritime admiralty law. So you really need to investigate a little bit more about this whole idea of maritime admiralty law, and the fact that if you're not a member of the law society, that means if you're not a judge, or if you're not a lawyer, or if you're not a law enforcement officer, it really has more to do with corporate type of cases dealing with businesses. But most people have, because of ignorance, have already signed over their rights and even the rights of their children. You understand? By getting certain documentation and never even asking the question, why is my name in all caps on that documentation? You understand? Because you are a business. They have made an artificial person of your natural person, and then through ignorance, you are representing the artificial person, because declare yourself a natural person. And the first thing this brought to mind, I'm thinking about the early Rastafari inspiration on the whole vibe of I and I, a natural man, went deeper than just I'm a man who like to live out in like the wilderness or nature or the country or something like that, or I'm a person who like to eat just natural food. It had a deeper idea vis-a-vis concerning this God of the world and the law of the God of the world, which is Satan's law, which has created artificial persons similar to this matrix. It connects with this matrix idea, because you already are a battery in the system, you understand, in this Leviathan matrix sort of system. So do a little more research on artificial person and natural person. See, most people would think, well, I'm a natural person, but you're not treated as a natural person before the so-called law. You understand? You are treated like a product, like a corporation. You understand? This is why most banking type of, not even banking, but court cases. Did you know that when you get on, when you go into a courtroom, I mean, there's so much connected to this idea that I would like to share with you, but do a little more research. We try to put some links here. That when you go in the courtroom, basically the likeness of going into a Babylonian or an Anglo-American courtroom is like entering into a ship to negotiate with the captain or judge, as it may be, concerning an issue of commerce, concerning an issue of banking, concerning an issue of business or of merchandise. This is why every court case, almost everyone has a dollar amount attached to it. This is why when the judge is so-called deciding a case, he is trying to decide the fair, commercial, economic, banking, financial balance in it. In other words, once the balance is, you understand? Once the balance is paid, then the case is closed. You understand? Pay your fine, so forth and so on, such and such. The case is closed. What we need to learn, and what we're going to seek to focus on, Yah willing, is how do we come out of Babylon? You see, coming out of the being an artificial person. You know, we used to talk about ones, you know, with perms and artificial, you know, like makeup and fake up and all these kind of things. We used to talk about these things were artificial. You understand? This was one level of perceiving that artificiality to it. But yet it went much deeper. That was like a kindergarten level for most of us years ago as Rastafari. There's a much deeper level to it. And it all concerns maritime admiralty law. You understand? What we have to declare is that we are natural persons. We are natural persons in that we are not representing the artificial corporation that has been created in our name, in our names under the business of Admiralty maritime law, which is dealing with banking and merchant disputes on the high seas. So Leviathan, this is what the Bible states in Revelation. Remember, it said no one can buy or sell. Revelation chapter 13. But it speaks to us that there would be a beast, right? This beast that was more terrible than all other beasts. It would come out of the sea. It would come up out of the waters. And when you study the history of so-called like 19th and 20th century, you understand, where the Anglo-Americans and the white supremacists, you understand, fascists and other slave drivers have dominated, you understand, the majority of their dominance has been by control of the sea. By controlling the sea, by dealing with merchandise and slave trade. I mean, Revelation chapter 18 gives you a list of all the products and merchandise that they have been engaging in, as well as that which they still engage in now. That's why it says, he who kills with the sword must be killed by the sword, and he who leads into captivity must, not maybe, but must be led into captivity. That's why our Hebrews, like brothers who speak about the enslavement of the Gentiles by the righteous Beta Israel, you understand, the Judahites will sell them to the Shabians or the Ethiopians. All that's right there in the book of Joel, a whole new economic system. You understand? A whole new economic system is envisioned. But the first thing that we have to declare, you understand, is that we are representing the natural person in our name and not the artificial corporate entity that was created against our sovereign will. That we do not have a first or a last name. You see, but see, indirectly we sign away our rights. See, the Constitution of the United States, the United States Constitution, they don't give us no rights. See, this is where the so-called Negro civil rights had it all wrong. The Constitution of the United States don't give us any rights. They basically enumerate the rights that we or that man or that the white man, the founding fathers had. That's what they enumerated their rights. You understand, roles and responsibility. But when you go into a court, this is very important for you to declare. You have to make this declaration, whether in writing, and in most court cases, they do allow you some sort of, you know, to write your own or to prepare your own affidavit or response or whatever like that, to submit that to the court. You have to outline, you understand, and state that your name, and you have to understand how you have to put your name. It's very important how you put your name. We already spoke about name changes, especially for the Beta Israel, the true Ethiopian Hebrews. If you're carrying around an Anglo-American, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant name, You understand? And you're talking about you're into consciousness. You're still unconscious. You're still on the bed. You kind of waking up and covering your head to prevent the light from getting your eyes before you have to really wake up, because you still are carrying around slave master's name. And if you're still carrying around slave master's name, that means you still belong to slave master. So you can go around talking